Hey girl, get yourself comfy, light a candle and turn the sun down, cause I have a secret for you. It's time for your girls.
Hi girls! So it is the first episode in English and I'm so happy to have Gaby with us, which is a dear friend that I met in Mexico in November, I guess. Yeah, November.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so nice to meet her and I'm so honored to have her at the first episode of the podcast in English. So it's such an honor because it's such a wide and beautiful woman, such a wide and business woman that I was like so inspired by her when I met her, and she actually make me like how you say it in English. Yeah, I don't know. She made me believe in myself and making like, okay, I went back to France thinking, okay, I'm going to do my business right. I want to be like her, kind of. So Gaby is a mindset and business coach for online entrepreneur. And she's going to talk about a subject today. I'm going to leave her tell you everything about what she's inspired today, and then we'll chat together after all. You know how it works. So I leave you to talk. Gaby, so happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Chloe, to have me. I was very excited to get your invite because I love sharing, I love talking, and who doesn't love to listen to a good conversation, right? So it's very good. So thank you so much. I love technology that we can do that, right? Like you're in France, I'm currently in Brazil, and we are able to do this together. It's amazing, and I'm sure there will be people watching this from my audience, perhaps from Australia and in Europe. And I love English because English you can impact more people, more English speakers. What I wanted to actually to talk today, and feel free to interrupt me at any time. It's a topic of mine that I'm really passionate about, which is egoic disruption for an extraordinary living. And when I said to you, right, Chloe, egoic disruption, she was like, egoic what? Egoic what? I think it's a very psychological term. Egoic means from the ego. So it's how can we disrupt the ego? And how must we? Why do we must disrupt the ego in order to have an extraordinary life? And we're going to also talk a little bit about how you have to disrupt yourself, meaning your ego, in order to have also an extraordinary business. I can't help myself but talk about business, and I'm sure there's a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this as well, so it's going to be good. I think the best way to start this is to how did I get into this? And I've been studying psychology for, I think, 13 years now. It's been a while. It's what I've done since I'm very young. I was in the books, I was doing courses, I went to uni. I've done so many courses on coaching and mindset coaching and wealth coaching and all these types of different modalities and methodologies in order to disrupt the human mind. I've always been very passionate about human behavior, psychoanalysis, humanistic psychology. And when I got into business, essentially what happened was, for those that don't know, I normally live in Australia. I'm Brazilian, but I live in Australia, even though I'm digital nomading at the moment. So I'm traveling the world. But I moved to Australia and none of my qualifications came over, right? I was just a nobody, like an immigrant. Maybe there's some of people listening to this who are immigrants, and we all know how hard it is to be an immigrant, where you're just treated like as someone that has no value to society. And I was like, well, I want to work with what I love. So I couldn't do psychology over there because I would have to study 3 more years at uni. So I decided to learn more about coaching and mindset coaching and stuff like that because it had helped me before. And I started my business basically teaching people mindset coaching, just women empowerment. That was a focus, giving women their confidence back, giving women their self-worth back, giving women the belief they had in themselves, something that maybe they had forgotten about, which is something similar to what you mentioned, that you felt empowered. I have this impact on people. And it's one of my missions actually to impact every single person that comes my way in a positive way. obviously I'm not fucking perfect. Sometimes we are not as kind to people that pisses us off, but I always hope to inspire, because I had so much of that in my life, and I know how much that changed the trajectory of my life. But essentially what happened was I was coaching women. I was growing my business. I grew my business to 6 figures, doing mindset coaching for women. And I got more and more women asking me, what was I doing to get clients, right? Alongside with all my knowledge on psychology, on the human mind, I know a lot about the psychology of the consumer, neuromarketing, presenting, selling, and I basically started teaching these women a magnetic business model based on psychology, which led me to where I am in business now, where I teach women how to have this mindset that is disruptive, so they can go ahead and disrupt their business, so they can disrupt the world around them, but also working on themselves, obviously, but also having the strategy, right? Because we all know that business, we can want it very, very much, but if you don't know exactly what to do at the right time and how to get clients and how to get there, it can get very complicated. Yes. Please interrupt me anytime, because otherwise I'm just gonna be, because I can talk a lot and I like talking.
You do, no, for now, it's fine. It's
Nice.
perfect.
And then when you go into egoic disruption for an extraordinary living, what do I mean by that, right? Up to when we are 7 years old, that's when we are formed all our beliefs, all of the things we believe, all the things that we see. And funny enough, we only have 2 fears that we are born with, which is the fear of loud noises and the fear of height. Everything else, every single other fear we have is learned by observation or by experiencing it. So let's say, for example, a kid is watching a cartoon and there's a man running away from a ghost in this cartoon. The child doesn't even know what a ghost is, but her mind will go, well, if that man is running away from that ghost, it means that that ghost is dangerous, so I better be scared of it too. And obviously part of my work is a lot around evolutionary psychology, which means how our mind works and how we behave, how that is determined by how we evolved as a species, which is really, really interesting. So that's it. We are evolved to learn with others, so we don't die, essentially, because if you die, it's a game over. Because we used to live in a world that was so dangerous, right? We could get hunted, you could starve, you can die from exhaustion. But now these days, what happens is we don't have those problems anymore, at least not. There's a lot of poverty in the world, but the people that are at least listening to this, I'm sure they're not in a poverty condition. They don't fear that they won't have where to sleep tomorrow, or that they're going to get hunted down, or they don't have what to eat. But then we have these new age problems, right? Which is we start feeling failure. We start fearing rejection. We start fearing not being good enough, which are just like being fearful of ghosts, are learned by observation and learned by experiencing it. Just like I said, most of our beliefs, I think once I heard in the statistics, and please everyone forgive me, I'm shocking when it comes to referring the things I read. I read so much, I don't remember where I took it from. Something I need to get better. But it's about 77% of our minds today, that's the average, right?
Yeah.
Was formed by the time we're 7.
Okay.
It's a shocking number that 92% of the thoughts we have today are the same thoughts we had yesterday, are the same thoughts we had yesterday, are the same thoughts we had yesterday. So you can see how retrograde we all are. Because think about it. If 77% of you, oh, this is so shaking. If 77% of you is from 0 to 7-year-old Chloe, and whoever raised you was 77% their 7-year-old, and whoever raised them was, and on top of that, 92% of our thoughts are the same of yesterday and the yesterday and the yesterday. It just goes to show how the way we are raised in a normal way of being raised, right? Like just traditional, unless you have a parent that is a coach and he will teach all the cool stuff from the very early age. It's very retrograde. And talking about ego, a lot of people think the ego is a bad person, right? It makes the ego look like a devil. Oh, ego is bad. I need to kill the ego. Oh, he's so egocentric. Ego this, ego that, ego that. But the ego, just like what we're talking about, Chloe, like with our periods, right? Just like PMS, it's yin and yang. In order for you to have the beautiful ovulation period of our time that we feel so amazing and so glorious, we have to go through menstruation.
Exactly.
And right? And the same way with our ego, in order to be in our highest self, in order to be these humans that we are, we have to have our ego because it's part of our psyche. Everyone is egocentric. Everybody's egocentric. If you tell me, oh, I'm not ran by my ego, you're lying. It's true, because we are always thinking about us, right? In an unconscious level. Obviously, consciously, you want to impact, you want to serve the world. You can be a good person and you can be a good person and be egocentric, but the ego is always there. And when I want to bring this discussion about the ego disruption for an extraordinary living, that's where I want to come from. How, if you live life just the way you were born, the way things were, with your sense of good and bad, this is good, this is bad, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. If you just follow what your egoic agenda tells you to do, not only you're going to live very likely an ordinary life, but you're going to create a life that just reminds you of everything that you're not. Let me break this down. Because the ego, we can never be whole in our egoic agenda. Meaning, the way our brain evolved is a way that it's always in lack. Again, evolution. If you felt so abundant and grateful back in the Stone Age, you would die. Yeah. So the ego always likes to think that you're not good enough, that you're not doing enough, and what you're doing is wrong. And even if you do something right, if you're good, it will not remember that because it's not relevant for your survival. The ego, the monkey mind, will always make you remember of all the mistakes you've made, of all the failures you had, of all the times you weren't good enough, because if you obsess over those, you make sure to avoid that and you will survive. But if you think about living an extraordinary life and growing a business, having an extraordinary business, being limitless, you have to flip the coin. You have to understand that A, I cannot let go of my ego. 2, my ego, I'm always going to be incomplete if I'm in my ego, and I have to flip the switch. And what again, just going back to where we started with this, on how if you are in your ego, you're going to create a life that will just remind you of everything you're not. Because let's say in your ego, you have the sense that you're not good enough. And then you open a business, right? Oh, I'm going to open a business, but I have this deep self-belief that I'm not good enough. You don't create the business, you don't create the content, you don't impact people from a place of full creation, from your true purpose orientation. You create from a place of, I'm not good enough. So then what do you start doing? Let's say, well, maybe if I people please, I'm going to be good enough. Maybe if I do this strategy, that I've seen working with someone else, even though I don't like it, then I'm going to be good enough. Maybe if I just push it through and just do this thing that I'm not so keen on, then I'm going to be good enough. So then can you see the difference between creating a life from an egoic agenda, which you don't feel complete, in opposed to building a life that you're being guided by your true purpose orientation?
Yeah, but then back to the 77% of what you build when you're 7. So then it means that I didn't get this part. It means that you keep you're the same through all your life, or you can't change then because you
No,
build
you can
everything from
change.
your 7.
You can absolutely change, and that's what I meant. That's an average, right? That's an average of people. Obviously, the more you work on yourself, the more you can break through it. But essentially, what is it, right? We're born. There's a baby there. The baby doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
And the baby doesn't know nothing, right? And up to when you're 7 years old, it will observe everything, absorb everything.
Yeah.
So in psychology, we call these gestalts. You're going to start forming gestalts, which is just like, okay, if I do this, then I get this. This is good. This is bad. It's like thinking patterns. It's thinking ideas. And if you, up to when you're 7, you have this belief that, let's go into business, that the bigger the business, the greater the problems. Because maybe your dad said that at a dinner table when you're 4. That's the gestalt you have around growing a business. The bigger the business, the bigger the problems.
Okay.
And then you tend to repeat that throughout your life. And I'm going to say one more thing, which is very controversial. Some people think that you can overcome limiting beliefs. You can break down limiting beliefs. You can completely destroy limiting beliefs and create new ones.
Yeah.
And this is true in some level of generic beliefs, like the bigger the business, the bigger the problem.
Yeah.
But when it comes to existential beliefs that are very close to our ego and very close to our core, and then that's something that I would get into in another conversation, into Enneagram, you can never change that, because this is the essence of who you are. This is literally attached to your identity. And your identity is just the little fluff. It's the presentation your ego puts out to the world for you to be presentable. Okay, this is the ego, this is everything I believe, these are all my gestalts, so I'm going to create an identity, and this is the identity I'm going to show to people. So in order to have an extraordinary life, you always have to be questioning your own identity all the time. And through that questioning, you'll be able to break through that 77% and go more into 60%, 50%. Can you fully be 100% a new person? No, just in another lifetime.
So what do you think about you? How, when you discovered it, how did you work on it for you, for yourself, to live this extraordinary life?
Yes, that's a good question.
Or how do you feel maybe about that today?
That's a good question. I think I have to start with a little bit of my story, that I had an eating disorder for 9 years. For 9 years, I struggled with bulimia and with self-harm. And also I had some suicide episodes. So I was really very much into my shit, very much into my ego and all my limiting beliefs, swimming on them, rolling on them, rolling on dirt. And that was such a hard time of my life. It's funny, in Chinese, the word for crisis, the little symbol, I think it's called kanji, I think. The same symbol that it's for crisis, it's for growth.
Okay.
Because the more, and think about it, right? The more you suffer, the more you learn. This is proven. Birds from New York City are smarter than birds from California. Same breed of bird, same age. It's just smarter because it goes through more adversity, right? I had to work with a lot of professionals and coaches to break through that. And that was the very first time I had a very big egoic disruption. But not only when I overcame the problems, but when I was having my image disorder, body image disorder, because my ego wanted to be seen and wanted to be cherished and wanted to be too good. And in my mind, I wasn't good. I wasn't gonna be looked after, and I wasn't gonna be good because I wasn't looking in such a way, which it's a topic anyway. So there was a time, for example, that I had a big egoic disruption because I had to truly, eat my fail. I had to eat the fail that I wasn't someone that I wanted to be. But this is a great example to show how you're never complete in your ego, because my ego at the time thought that in order for me to be who I wanted to be, I needed to be skinny, which goes against being in a true purpose orientation. But moving past that, when I opened the business, I always say, I think opening the business was just as hard for me. Then let me just put this on charge. For me, opening the business was just as hard as overcoming my eating disorder. Having a business is really tough. Is really tough, especially the business that we are in, Chloe, that it's you.
Yeah.
I started an e-commerce, and let's say I'm selling this. If this is selling, great. If this is not selling, fuck this. Get something else.
Yeah, exactly.
If the person providing this, fuck this, get something else. It's so impersonal, but the type of business we are in, and the vast majority of my clients, it's very much personal. It's very much you. So you are constantly taking slaps on the face every time you put content out there, and you expect to go viral, and it gets 2 views, and then you go, fuck. You question everything, question if you're doing the right thing, question if what you have to offer is valuable and everything.
Yeah.
And how can you disrupt that? So can you see that this level of disruptions, like the ego is spoiled. Oh, I want to have success. I'm going to post this reel. I'm going to be successful. But life doesn't give it that. The algorithm is a bitch. But how can you disrupt that in order to have an extraordinary life? How can you disrupt your negative thinking in order to have a disruptive life? And that is the hardest thing. And that is the challenge. This is why people hire me. Because they want to find out how can they overcome their fears, their emotions, the lack of management, the lack of emotional. Sorry, I'm just going to put this here. There you go. How can they manage their lack of emotional intelligence? How they can manage their emotions? How can they manage the challenges they feel as they move closer to their end result? And the answer is psychological work. There's really no magical pill. You can do different types of techniques, which I do with my clients. I've done timeline therapy many times with professionals on me. I do it with my clients just to create like some kind of emotional hygiene.
Yeah.
You can clear out the shit, but it's like a house. It will always get dirty. You don't clean a house once and it's good for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you continue. That's a good example. Because you always think like, okay, I'm cleaning my shit, I'm going forward, it's good, and then you're done. But actually not. It would be like stupid to think that when you do it once, then it's forever. You actually have to do it your whole life, kind of. And maybe that's yeah.
And I was just gonna say that's something else. When I used to be a confidence coach, purely teaching women confidence, I would ask them, are you confident in life? Is there anything else? Is there anything in life? Is there any area of your life that you're not yet super confident? And the women, they used to tell me, oh no, I'm super confident. Thank you very much. I knew that women weren't growing in their lives. If a business owner told me, oh, I'm confident, thank you. I think they weren't being sincere with me, or they're fooling themselves and they're not growing. Because like a house, let's say you clean the house up. Oh, my house is clean. I'm over my shit and everything. But if you don't have guests that come in and getting in their shoes and eat and dine, or you don't have anyone in your house to interact with you to make that space dirty, then you're going to have to clean your house again. So in business, in life, relationships, if you're not constantly growing and stirring shit up, sure, you're not messing things around more, but you're not growing either. And I can guarantee you're not living an extraordinary life.
Yeah, because you get bored in your clean house alone and yeah, in your comfort zone, and yeah, it's not interesting at the end.
Mm-hmm. And some people are not into business. Some people are into simple living, and that's fair, right?
Yeah.
Whatever rocks your boat.
Definitely.
But that goes also internally with our emotions. I used to be a very stoic person. I didn't like sharing about my emotions. I was very cold, very superficial within myself. And I used to tell people like, oh, I'm super confident within myself. I'm an open book. I can share anything. I could just do things and just like, oh, I'm just going to do it. It's all good. But because I wasn't disruption my own self with myself, I wasn't going deep within my emotions. So how can I grow in my own psychology if I'm not going there, if I'm not making my house dirty by stirring it? I'm just putting a rug on top of the dirt and saying, oh, see, it's not dirty. Just pushing the dirt under the rug. So dirt will always come. And there's different analogies, right? Yoga, muscles. You don't do a yoga session and you're super flexible and then you never go ahead and stretch yourself again. You have to stretch yourself every day in order to get to splits.
It's everything like in life is the same. But we always think that, okay, I'm going to do the business first, once, and then I'm done for the rest of my life. But no. And I think it's nice to know it. I mean, I think it's important to know it because otherwise we get disappointed all the time. And I was actually doing my business strategy today and thinking, okay, if I do this and this, I'm fine. But then I know that it's like a strategy for a few months, but then I'm going to do it again because everything is going to move and change and some stuff are going to come, and maybe clients is going to be different. And yeah, it's a life job.
Yes.
Like any other job.
Exactly. And the thing here, Chloe, which is I talk a lot to my clients and people that follow me, is it's not even that. It's not even just doing the work. You have to take action in order to go forward. You can't go against that. But it's how do you feel under that? How do you truly feel under trying, not succeeding, the change, the coming and going? How it's interesting to know how is your self-worth oscillating with all this? When your business is doing great, if your self-worth is high, and when your business is shit, your self-worth is low, there's something you have to address here, because we cannot count. It's not fair. You can't live an extraordinary life if your self-worth is attached to something outside of you. Your self-worth is you're already worth just for you exist. And this is also something that I want to just tap on it, which is the ego is really, really good at putting conditions to our happiness, to putting conditions for us to be fulfilled, to putting conditions for us to feel love, for putting conditions for us to feel wealthy. And I'm not a hypocrite. Money is important. We need money, cash. We need cash. It's not just, oh, I'm abundant. No, we need cash, right? So we need to take action. But for example, this is basically the work I do with my clients. If you have your ego and you disrupt your ego, you soften it and you have the opportunity to peel it for a little bit, because you can't just rip it off. You have to unpeel it. You unpeel the ego and you're able to then see your true purpose orientation. You see that you are already whole in your true purpose orientation. And from that true purpose orientation, we set an end result for you. So when you're feeling whole, when you know that you're worth regardless, when you know that you were born with everything you already need within you, then what? Then what would you like to create? So it's not putting a condition of, if I have the clients, then I'll be happy. If I have the clients, if I have a relationship, then I'll be able to feel loved. When I have the job, that's when I'll feel stable. It's the opposite. I can find stability within me. I have the stability within me. I'll get the job that I want, not at the job that is easy for me to get because I lack stability.
Yeah.
Oh, I am already loved. I already have love in me. It's already in me. Then I can go for the relationship I want, not the relationship that is just there giving you crumbles of love. I already am worthy. I already have a voice. I already have I am already impacting people every day when I talk to them. So how can I, from that sense of wholeness, go ahead and build the business that I want? See, can you see how it's different?
It is, yeah.
It's almost like you're still baking a cake, but there are two different tastes of cake. That goes back into what we started with. If you create a life from your ego, from the lack, you're going to create a life that will remind you of everything you're not. Relationship. Oh, I crave love. I don't feel love. So I'm going to find this guy that the first one that I found, he's good enough. You know, he gives me attention. And as long as you have that relationship with that fucker, you're going to remember how much you lack love because he gives you crumbles.
Yeah.
In opposed to creating a life from your true purpose orientation, which is the work I do with my clients, and setting the goals there. Some people think that being happy, I have a lot of, especially mates, like friends, male friends, they fear that if they go too spiritual, if they go too much into happiness and living a good life and living an extraordinary life now without conditions, they won't have goals. But if I feel happy now, what am I supposed to do? Get married and have kids? Like, it's not about settling, but it's just about creating whatever the fuck you want from a place of wholeness and completeness rather than a place of lack and scarcity.
This is so valuable what you gave today. It's so important. Can you say that you live an extraordinary life today?
If I live an extraordinary life today?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Is my life extraordinary every day? No, you know, there are some days that I feel very shit with my PMS. Some days I'm very down, but it's not about the little every day. You know, when you look at a graph, we don't look at one isolated point in the graph. We look at the overall graph. It's about the trajectory. It's about where you're going. You know, two people that are making, let's say, $20,000 a month in their business. The person that the prior month had a 50K business, 50K month, is on a downward trajectory. He's going to feel like shit.
Yeah.
The person that was broke a month ago and all of a sudden made 20K on clients, she's going to be stoked because her trajectory is up. That's also very important. Having an extraordinary life, having an extraordinary business, having success on any area of your life, it's not about where I am today, but it's about where I came from and where I'm going.
I like that. I love it because that's what I said when I present you. Like, that's why you empowered me when I met you, is because you really like, how you say it in English. This is hard to find a good word. Like, I have it in French now.
Tell me in French. Let's see if I can help.
Yeah, because Gaby, you speak a little bit of French. You really have it in you. Like, I mean, you live your life when you meet you, you're really like, in French we say you're rayonnante. You mean like you really shine, like
radiant.
You're radiant. Yeah, you really shine, and we can really feel that it's not because your life is perfect, but just because you live the life that you want. And that's why I really liked about you when I met you. It's that's yeah, it wasn't perfect. We met like in an island in Mexico, and you were not really working at this time. You were doing like your workshop with your funny mask and stuff. It was really funny to see. But yeah, you were not doing like the highest of your business at this time, but you were living a good life, and everything was good, even in the, like you said, even if it was not perfect. And I think it's really inspired to see that you kind of reach the goal, because it's not perfect, but it's enough. And it's growing, like you said, but it's enough. Every day it's enough, and every day it's perfect in this imperfection, I would say. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's really important that you give it to women and men in your coaching. So that's really inspiring. I have three
Yes.
question for you, Gaby,
Yes.
to end this chat. The first one is which day of your women's cycle you are? Do you know? Or which
When
phase
my
you are?
next circle is.
No, when where are you in your cycle? Are you
Oh,
like,
where am I in my cycle? I'm
yeah,
probably on my day. Today's Tuesday. I'm on day 5 of my period.
5 of your period? Okay, that's precise. So we're nearly quite similar. I think I'm day 3, so we are like close.
Yes.
Day 3 of my
Yes.
period. The second question is, what is femininity for you? What is
Femininity.
feminine? Yeah, femininity, feminine. What is means for you? For you?
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's a very good question. What is femininity for me? I think, wow, that's a really good question. I think femininity is, as a woman, I'm gonna say something obvious, which is being in touch with yourself. That is obviously the same thing that applies for men with masculinity, but that's so important, right? Femininity is about being in touch with your emotions, is
Okay.
being soft, which I can't even, I believe I'm saying that, because I used to be such a hard ass. But it's the ability to be squishy. You don't have to be soft to the point that people can break you, or you just have to be completely shapeless, but it's to be able to sense the world outside of you and have the wisdom to, with your best of your ability and the best of your heart and your intuition and intention, to do the best you can with what's around it. For me, femininity has all to do with pleasure, has all to do with being sexy. Some people might say that that's very misogynist, but that's for me, right? Being feminine, being kind, being witty, being intelligent. By the way, it's scientifically proven that women have more emotional intelligence and are more intelligent than men, because we had to compensate the lack of physical strength
Yeah,
when we
true.
were evolving,
Mm.
right? So I think being femininity is also being able to see beyond the obvious.
I like that. Seeing beyond the obvious. I love it. And the
Yes.
last question is, what turned you on to on
What turns me on?
yeah.
What turns me on? Life turns me on. People turns me on.
Mm.
Movements, dance, colors, emotions turns me on. Empowerment turns me on. Um, Diversity turns me on.
Okay. Life, like everything in life turns you on. I like that.
Yes, life is a turn on, right?
Yeah,
And
true.
even though I don't believe that every day, because when I'm PMSing, I'm just like, oh, why did I choose to come to this earth again? Honestly, I was telling to a friend, actually, I was like, mate, I really fucking hope that when I come back up, I remember what I had just lived and go, God, let me be a guide. I don't want to be a human anymore. I can be a spiritual guy. I can be a ghost, like putting pranks on people, but do not send me down there. But at the same time, life is a turn on. I mean, why would it not be, right?
Yeah, that's true. I like that. Well, thank you so much, Gaby, for the chat. It was so valuable, so interesting.
Thank you.
And yeah, we learned so much. You shared so much with us about your knowledge and your spirit and everything. You're such an amazing woman, and I encourage everybody to know you, everybody who can speak English, who discover you, your Instagram and all your world. Actually, even your stories and your lives, it's like so lightning every day, like you're dancing, and I'm always smiling when I look at you. So it's so nice. Just for that, it's amazing.
Thank you
And
so much, Chloe.
so for everybody who are listening, like every time, every episode, I leave you, you have 5 minutes for yourself, listening to the music and maybe thinking about what we said. And yeah, that's how we close it. Do you have a word for the end, maybe?
The word with it is be truthful. Well, it's not a word. Be truthful to yourself and your true purpose.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
My
Bye
pleasure.
bye.
Ciao.